Good evening, everybody. How you doing? My name is Michael McCormick. You've seen some of my videos I put on. I'm with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills, Maryland. And the majority of videos I've put on YouTube have been related to Baltimore City Police investigation of the Freddie Gray case. I've also had videos on dealing with police misconduct in Baltimore City. I'm going to take a turn today and discuss what the news reports we've been getting from various news sources and outlets in Baltimore City, as well as some of the information that's come out from the police department relative to Detective Sean Suiter's death Wednesday afternoon. These are some of the things I just wanted to point out so that you know, if I'm first of all, I am quite sure that the Homicide Division in Baltimore City will certainly solve this case with or without my help. But I'm just bringing forth some of the facts of the case as they come forth, how they play out to me, and maybe to you as well once you hear what I have to say. For those of you who don't know me, I spent 10 years on the police department from 1980 to 1990. I worked in Central District. I was also drug enforcement officer for a couple years, both in the Central and Western Districts. I'm very familiar where the officer was murdered at. I'm very familiar with that area. On that side of Fremont Avenue, one side is the Central District, one side is the Western District. So I'm very familiar with that borderline of Fremont Avenue and Bennett Place. So one of the things I wanted to bring forth is that this officer was murdered, I believe, with his own service weapon. And the reason I say that is because there have been reports by the Sun and been reports by the police department that indicate that the officer's weapon was found near his body, which means that at some point the officer had displayed his weapon. At some point his weapon was removed from his person. I tend to believe that there was a struggle between the officer and the suspect, and the suspect was able to probably overpower the officer in the struggle and end up firing a fatal shot into the officer's head. Now the police department says that there's been possible that the suspect might have been hit. And they probably say that because there's probably blood trails probably leading from the scene itself. And that would be a clear indication that the suspect was hit. Witnesses that were interviewed on television indicated that they heard 4 rounds go off in succession. So that would seem to be where the rounds were fired as the struggle was going on pretty rapidly. And the reason I say that is because it's been reported too that the officer had a partner. And so had those rounds been intermittent rounds, every 30 seconds going off or something like that, at the very first round being fired, his backup officer, who was not far away, I assume, would have been able to come to his aid, render aid a little bit quickly. So we know that these rounds went off pretty fast, in quick succession. I tend to believe that if the suspect was hit, he might have been hit on the first couple of rounds. If he was hit, I tend to believe that the officer was struck with the last round was probably the fatal round that killed him during the struggle. Let me see what else I want to add. The commissioner also indicated too that the officer's weapon, if it did discharge, I'm going to want to get this correct. If I'm wrong, I'll come back on and recorrect it. Where he indicated that it would be hard to identify if there was another weapon. They don't want to rule it out, but because it's a Glock, and I think the particular Glocks that the police department have, when they're fired, they don't leave trace markings on the particular bullet. So it'd be hard to, if there was another Glock there, if it was issued to that police department, or if it was issued, or if it was just a Glock in general, it just may have the same type of markings that a police issued weapon would have. If it was that same manufacturer, the same type of weapon, I'm going to lean towards the officer having a wound that came as a result of the struggle, and that's how the officer was killed. And the suspect fled on foot. There's indication that the suspect left the area. He left the area, and he had a black and white, I believe it's a black jacket with a white stripe, or a black jacket with a white stripe, or a white jacket with a black stripe. I'm not sure. And that's it. Now, I don't know who gave that information to the police department, that particular description, but that's the only description that was given. That's the only description I've heard that's been given so far. We know that his partner, certainly, if he did give the description, it's because he probably saw the person running away from him with his back turned. So probably he only got that if this officer, his partner, was there, we gave it. And it's also interesting to note that the partner never discharged his own firearm. So I'm kind of leaning towards maybe that particular information came from somewhere else. I don't know. Because I would imagine, certainly if it was my partner and the suspect is on foot and not far away from my distance, right, I probably, even if I wouldn't have left my partner, I wouldn't have left him just laying there on the ground. Certainly I would call for backup. But I certainly would have fired a couple rounds, to see if I could strike the suspect. So I tend to believe that because the rounds were fired so fast that by the time his partner got there, this guy had already taken off. That's just my take on the whole thing. Let's see what else here. I've taken some notes. Let me see what else. Okay, so I mean that's pretty much all I want to add right now. I had some other stuff that I want to discuss in reference to it, and it had to deal with more on the ballistic end. But I'm going to wait and hold off on my opinion on the ballistic end of things for now. And the reason I say that is because certainly I'm just I'm giving you a hypothetical of what I think would happen in the whole thing, and I'm just basing it on. I would tend to believe that when it comes out, once the autopsy report is made, if it's made public, that you will probably find that officer, that weapon discharged pretty close to that officer's head. I'd say within inches myself, which would mean that there was a struggle in close proximity. Both the officer and the suspect were in close proximity because it was a struggle. And it might have just been might have been a weapon thing where he was holding on to his weapon and the guy got the best of him. I don't know. But those shots rang out according to witnesses who were on TV interviewed that they had heard 4 shots successively in quick succession go out. If I had to guess in terms of where he would be, I don't think he's in that particular area of Baltimore, and I would say not in that part of West Baltimore. He's had some days now to beat feet, either to the east side, south side, or whatever. So I'm going to hold off, reserve my judgment on any of the things dealing with the ballistic end of things, because there's an old case that dealt with the police department and those Glocks that they use that, in terms of forensic identification, makes it hard to identify which particular round is being fired from a particular Glock. So I don't even know if that's the same departmental issues today that were out in 2011 that police are still using. I don't know. So I'm just putting that out there. So for now, I'm going to hold off, reserve all judgments for anything else, because the police department's got enough people calling in with information that may or may not, paying out. So that's where I'm at. If I can piece together some other things in reference to this investigation, I certainly will. I have to listen to some more news reports and see what I can kind of come up with. Once again, my name is Mike. I'm with Advanced Criminology in Owings Mills. And we will talk to you next time. Thank you.